Everyone. My name is Natalie Alwish, and I'm the Executive Director of Humane Action Pittsburgh. Today, we're going to talk about transforming your world as an advocate and citizen lobbyist, and how to use effective communication with your legislator to make social change. And that's exactly what you're going to be doing as an action team member, is transforming our world to make change for animal protections. And you'll do more in the 30 to 60 minutes a month that we give you action items than most people will in their entire lives. So why do we have an action team? Well, we believe that lawmaking is key to solving animal problems that are too big for rescue alone. And our goal is to prevent animal suffering in the first place. So by understanding the needs of animals, educating your friends, and perhaps most importantly, speaking up in all levels of government, you'll do more for animal well-being than most people ever will. So let's talk about some tools for effective advocacy and lobbying. First, you'll want to educate yourself on the issues. And as an action team member, HAP will always send you information on the action items first. You'll need to know who your legislators are, and we'll talk in a little bit about how you can find this information out. But what I typically do is I put their names and my numbers and their numbers in my contacts list, so I don't have to Google it every single time I want to reach out. You may also want to research issues that are important to them. So, unfortunately for a lot of legislators, just animal protection and being compassionate isn't necessarily reason enough to support a bill. But maybe they care about the environment or human health and safety. And then we can tie the bills that we're working on for animals to those issues, because as we all know, animal welfare issues are interconnected with so many other things. And then get to know their staffers. So if you call their office, the vast majority of the time, it's not going to be the legislator who answers the phone. So take note, who's answering the phone, who does their scheduling, get to know these people. Of course, we're trying to show public support for these issues. So we can do that through calls, emails, and occasionally letters. That's what you'll be doing as a member of the action team, is calling and emailing. Maybe find a friend to join the action team. Again, this only takes 30 to 60 minutes a month. And share on social media. One thing that I found interesting when I got started in this space is how few calls or emails it really takes to make an issue a priority to a legislator, because most people just aren't taking the time to contact them. So we've heard that as little as 10 calls or emails can make an issue a priority for a legislator. So, if you and a few friends can call or send emails on these issues, well, there's your 10. Remember to always be polite and respectful. The goal is to build a relationship. We may not always get what we want, but we always want to be invited back. So, if a legislator maybe doesn't vote the way that you want them to, or doesn't agree to support something, you can express your disappointment as a constituent, but make sure it's always in a polite and respectful manner. Keep in mind, you may need to call or write several times. These people, as we all are busy, and so they might forget. So typically what I try to do, when I do call or email, I ask specifically, when can I expect to hear back? And the person on the phone might say, oh, well, I'm meeting with them later this week, so, I can get you an answer by Friday. And then if Friday comes and goes and I don't hear back from them, I can follow up. They might say that they don't know when you'll expect to hear back. And so, you can just make a note to maybe call or write again in 2 weeks. So what do you say when you call or email them? Well, first of all, make sure you identify yourself as a constituent, because of course, if you're a constituent, that means you can vote for these people or not vote for them. That's one of the reasons that we have this action team, is these legislators want to hear from their constituents. Make sure to give the name and number of the bill. Humane Action Pittsburgh will give you that information as part of our action request. Most of our action alerts are for asking for support for a bill, but sometimes we are asking for a legislator to oppose a bill. So make sure that you're clear on that. Explain what the bill does, but briefly. These people aren't going to read or listen to you, droning on for a long time. So I would say if it takes you more than a sentence or two, it's probably too long. So be very brief, 1 or 2 sentences on what the bill does. You can share a story. Why does this matter to you? Again, this should be brief. We'll go over in a moment some examples of what might be these compelling reasons, but again, keep it brief. And I mentioned a compelling reason. So maybe you don't necessarily have a personal story, but you can explain why it's important to you and why they should care about it. Someone once told me this, and it really resonated with me. Your legislator is either your friend or someone else's friend. I want to make sure my legislators are my friends so that they're going to hopefully listen to me. So you need to make sure, again, you're working on that relationship. Get to know your elected officials by subscribing to their email list, going to their public events, and making appointments as part of the action team to discuss animal welfare concerns. When I got started in this, none of my legislators knew who I was. I didn't even know who any of them were. But now, after years of working on these issues and going to their events and learning about them, they know who I am, and that's what your goal should be. So what are some compelling reasons, right? Remember, we talked earlier about finding out what's important to these legislators. Do they care about the environment? Do they care about human health and safety? So, when we send you our actions, we're going to give you some reasons that the legislators might care, but maybe you want to personalize it a little bit more because, you've learned about these legislators and you know what's important to them. So just a few examples, and of course, this is going to be dependent on the bill. Maybe it saves taxpayer dollars, right? We work on bills all the time that are animal welfare bills, but they just so happen to also save taxpayer dollars. Of course, most of us probably know about the interconnectedness between animal welfare and the environment. So if your legislator cares about the environment, there may be a connection to be made there. A lived experience, right? So maybe one of the bills we're working on is important to you for some very personal reason that you're comfortable sharing. Maybe it's good for business and public relations. Human health and safety, right? A lot of the legislators might not care about animal issues, but they care about improving human health and human safety, and you can make that tie in there. And one thing I really love about working on animal issues is that they really are bipartisan or nonpartisan and can help to establish common ground. So it's a way for Republicans and Democrats and other to work together. Let's talk about some frequently asked questions. Keep in mind, if you ever have questions, you can always feel free to email myself or another member of the HAP team. So what legislators should you know? Most of our HAP actions are going to be either at the Pennsylvania state level. So I'm kind of skipping bullet points. So I'm looking at the second bullet point here. So the Pennsylvania level, everyone has one state representative and one state senator. Our federal or nationwide actions, you'll have your one US representative in the House of Representatives and your 2 US senators. And then there may also, especially if you live in the city of Pittsburgh, there may occasionally be local legislation. So it doesn't hurt to know your local council person and mayor. But if you live in Pennsylvania, definitely your state representative, state senator, and then for anywhere in the country, your US representative and your 2 federal senators. How do you find who these people are? Well, it's pretty easy. You can Google Find My Legislators and type in your address. I'm going to walk you through the website that I like to use. So I've gone to just Google and put who are my legislators. Of course, depending on your, Google, it might come up in a different order, but I like this USA.gov website. So I'm going to click on this USA.gov website. Okay. I'm going to put my address in, and so I guess everybody watching this can see my address. Click Find My Elected Officials. Now, a lot of people are going to come up. So let's walk through the ones that you need to know, right? First, federal officials. Remember, we said you're one representative and two senators. So, we're not usually going to be giving actions for the president or vice president, so you can ignore them. So we have, our two US senators, Bob Casey and John Fetterman in Pennsylvania. And then my representative is Summer Lee. Okay, and if you click on them, I'd probably go to their website. So we'll talk more about the phone numbers in a moment, but you can go to their website and get their contact info. So there's your federal people. State people, remember we said we had one House member and one senator. Of course, this is for Pennsylvania. So again, there's a lot of extraneous people here that we're likely not going to have actions for. So I'm scrolling down. PA State Senator, I see Jay Costa. PA State Representative, I see Jessica Benham. So of course yours might be different, but you're looking for PA State Senator, PA State Representative. Okay. And then again, local people, this won't really apply too much, but it might not hurt to get to know who some of these people are, right? I can see all the different members of county council and then, a Pittsburgh city council member. Okay, so this is a good site. And remember, save their information in your phone or wherever you keep your contacts. Okay, going back to the presentation. So do you call their local, district, or state federal office? So it might depend on the legislator, but typically we've been told if you are calling a Pennsylvania state person about an issue, you want to call their district office. So when you go to their website, remember this is Pennsylvania state people, you will see a number for their Harrisburg office and their district office. Typically, we want to call the district office. For federal or national people, it's the opposite. So if I go to my federal senators or representatives, I'm going to see a number for their Washington, D.C. office and then local offices. And you want to call Washington, D.C. So Washington, D.C. for federal, and then state, you want to call district. Okay. As you get to know your legislators, maybe that's not going to work for everyone. You'll figure it out, but that's a good place to start. There may be specific representatives where they want you to call the office that I'm not recommending at this point. What is the process? And again, this is in Pennsylvania for a bill to become law. Well, it's pretty complicated, but what you need to know is, a bill is introduced into either the House or the Senate. Let's say the House, just for simplicity of this conversation. It will first be assigned a committee. So it might be the Agricultural Committee, the Judiciary Committee, or, there's a lot of other committees. It first has to make it through that committee. The next step is it goes to the entire floor of, again, let's just say the House, and it goes up for a second consideration in another committee. This is often the Rules Committee or Appropriations Committee. So at first it's the committee it's assigned to, then it's assigned to a second committee, which is a lot of times Rules or Appropriations. Then it goes to the entire House of Representatives, or excuse me, Pennsylvania House. And then if it passes through there, it goes to the Senate, essentially repeats the same process in the Senate. If it passes out of the Senate, then it goes to the governor for to be signed into law. Of course, you can Google and find a lot more information on that, as I'm just giving the 30-second rundown on a pretty complicated issue. Are emails, letters, or phone calls more effective? Say emails and phone calls are both good. As an action team member, we would probably ask you to do both, to send both an email to the office and call. Letters, like in the mail, are not as effective, especially, at the federal level. Like since all the anthrax scares, these letters have to be screened through security. It can take sometimes up to a month for the legislator to actually receive the letter. So we would advise sticking to emails and phone calls. Now, remember, when I say email, I do not mean the generic contact on their website. So if you go to their website, there's a contact form. No one's going to look at that. You're going to get a generic response back. So you need to send an email to their office. If you have any trouble finding the email address, HAP can help you, right? The phone number should be easy. It's right on their website. We can help you find the email if you're not able to find it. If they ask a question you don't know the answer to, be honest. Tell them you're not sure, but you'll find out. Email HAP and we'll help you. Keep in mind, thousands of bills are introduced, but only a few are actually voted on. The vast majority die in committee, right? That first step in the process when they're assigned to committee. So legislation is definitely the long game. This is not something where you're going to get instant gratification. We have to be persistent. It takes an average of 7 years for a bill to become a law. So keep that in mind. Thank you so much for joining the action team and for taking time to watch this presentation. Email us at any time at info@humaneactionpittsburgh.org if you have any questions or need clarifications. Thank you.